Today I want to talk about using an image plane as a reference for your modeling. So by this I mean we're going to put a texture onto a plane, and we can have that texture always in the background. We can trace over that texture and use it as a guide for our modeling. This has a lot of benefits. Most importantly, it means that your model stays very close to the reference you're using. If you do a lot of things by eye, or if you do a lot of things without having direct access to reference, you'll lose shape and form very quickly. So this is a really, really good way to make your modeling better and just be more accurate. So what do we need for this? We need a plane, we need two, a texture, and three, we need to map that texture properly to that plane. So it's a three-step process. So first step is create a plane. That's the real easy bit. We go to the create panel and we select plane, and we're just going to get the rough dimensions of our image here. I'm also just going to be thinking roughly about how big the actual model is going to be. So it's a human figure. I'm looking here at all the how big this plane is, and I want to, this human figure isn't going to be over 2 meters tall, so 212 centimeters, and wider than it is high, so that'll be fine. I'm just going to stick this in the center by right clicking the transform tool and just zeroing out these coordinates. Okay, so we've got a plane. That's very easy bit. Now the next bit is to attach a material to that plane. So I'm going to hit the M key, and that's going to bring up the material editor. M for material editor. It's quite an easy shortcut to remember. And I need to firstly grab a material. Now on the side here at the top, we have these basic materials. We just want a good old standard material. And you'll notice this box, all these nodes come out. These nodes are just a way to hook up different maps and different entities into our material to get different effects. Don't worry too much about that for the moment. We just need a very simple material with a texture on it. So I'm going to double click this guy, and I'm going to look at his options here. And what we have, let's see, we have a diffuse and a box next to it. So if I just drag from here onto our plane, you'll notice that the diffuse, if I change its color, the plane will change its color. So basically what we're doing is we're changing the base color of the material, and that's updating on the plane. However, we want more than just a color, we want a whole texture. So just to the right, we have this little box. If we select that, it'll give us an option to put various textures and effects in there. We want the one at the top, the bitmap. We select that. It's already found the texture I want to use. Double click that, and you'll notice shipping, we get this bitmap node hooked into our diffuse color. Now, our plane hasn't updated with the texture yet, because we need to let Max know that we want the material to show the textures in the viewport. This is a performance issue. So up here with the material selected, we click show shaded material in viewport, and suddenly our texture is present. Now, obviously it's not mapped correctly yet. It's repeating quite a bit, but that's our last and third and final step. So I'm just going to shut down the material editor, as we don't need that anymore. And I'm going to come to our plane, and we're just going to add a simple modifier to it. Now this modifier is called UVW map, and it adds basic mapping to bits and pieces. Very basic, so you can add basic planar, cylindrical, spherical, all these kind of maps up here, but don't worry about most of these buttons. What we're going to do is we're firstly going to take off real world map size, as that's just not useful to us. It's if we take that off, we get the option choose bitmap fit. Now the reason why everything's disappeared is because everything is right now huge, and the reason for that is this length and width here. It's suddenly taken the length and width to the size of our box. We just want that to be 1 and 1. and suddenly our guys come back again. And then we want to select bitmap fit. And what that'll do is when we select the texture again, it'll look at the pixels on the height and the width and work out exactly what the ratio of that image is. So I select that, and you suddenly notice that all of these, or the texture here, is displayed correctly. It's not the right size yet, but it's displayed correctly. Now, to get the right size, that's very easy. You see, like all modifiers, if it's got a plus sign, that means it's got a thing called a gizmo, and a gizmo lets you adjust the modifier. So if we select the gizmo and we move this arrow around, we're not actually affecting the plane anymore, we're affecting the UVW map modifier. So that responds to translation, that also responds to rotation, and that responds to scale as well. So all we're going to do is just scale it up, move it around till it fits into our box. Just a tiny bit more. There we go. Now we have a nice reference plane sorted. The next task, we just basically want to copy this plane. So why do you want to do that? Well, we want to work on it from the front, and we also want to work on it from the left because we've got these left side images. We've got a back one as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select rotate, and I'm also going to select angle snap. This will just mean that it'll snap to angles. At the moment it's set to every 5 degrees. And I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to rotate it around 90 degrees. Holding down shift will duplicate an object through any translation, whether that's well, translate, rotate, or scale. So if I hold shift, I drag this guy around, and look, we have a duplicated image plane. We want to copy it, we don't want to instance it. I'm going to click OK. And now if we look in our left hand one, and we just go out of wireframe mode and we go into shaded mode, we have on the left hand side as well. And we have our image plane set up. Now if we need more image planes, we can make more image planes, or we can bring different image planes in. But now we can, like I said, use these as guides. So if I was going to use this as a guide, I would, let's just have a look at this. I'd say, well, this is the front guy. So let's move him to the front where I want him. And this is the left-hand guy, so I'm going to move him here. And I can now use a box to work out not only his front features, but his left-hand features as well. So I'm just going to, so I can make this go invisible and convert it to an editable poly and start doing all my different polygon modeling to this guy. Without worrying too much, as I'm just copying the guides. And on this side I can go and start following this side, making modeling an awful lot easier. So a couple of tips and tricks with this. One will be, don't worry too much about your image planes being set up really accurately. As long as the image aligns, it doesn't matter if these aren't that. They don't have to be an exact cross or an exact shape. You just got to make sure that the image aligns, and then once you start modeling, not to move any of the planes. A good tip for that is if you select a plane, because at the moment I can accidentally select it and then accidentally move it and we could be in trouble, is if I right click, you go to object properties, and all you have to do is, it says show frozen in gray, untick that. Because what I want to do is right click and freeze selection, which means I can't select it again unless I right click and say unfreeze all, and I can select it. Now if I didn't do the, if I didn't untick the show frozen in gray, if I freeze this guy, he'll just go grey. So again, right click, untick show frozen in grey, and then both these guys, we can freeze them and not worry about accidentally selecting these planes. Now it may be that if I just unfreeze these guys, I need this image to be facing the other way around. I may have got my viewports mixed up, my left might be my right and the rest of it. With the gizmo, all you have to do is select it on the UV map gizmo on your image plane and rotate around 90 degrees. And you'll notice that everything is now the other way around. So we have lots of control, lots of versatility to set our scene up exactly how we want it if we're using this UV map gizmo. Okay, thanks for listening.